Hello, hello. I want to welcome you to What's the Score? I just want to say hello and just making sure that I'm definitely live now. Welcome everybody. It is a great pleasure to be here with you for our weekly installment of business tips that are going to assist you in being able to really align your mindset and ensure that the work that you're doing in your business is going to have the results and the impact that you'd really like to have. So if you're just meeting me for the first time, it's Shondell here from Life Puzzle, and at Life Puzzle we believe that sales is the number one life skill, and there are 3 important sales that you make. But today what I want to talk to you about is an important topic around the area of assessment. And I'm wondering, when was the last time that you did an assessment on your business, when you had a look at the different skills that you have in the context of growing this business that you probably started a while back with great enthusiasm, great joy, real excitement, probably big vision and a big dream around what you wanted to create. And so in the last couple of years, it's no secret that wherever you are in the world, we have people logging in from all over the world. It's no secret that wherever you are in the world that you've probably had some pretty significant impacts in the last couple of years, and maybe that's affected some of those aspirations. Maybe it's affected the dream, the flow, the way in which your business is operating. For some of you, you've had a complete topsy-turvy or an upside down approach to the results of the last couple of years in the world, considering the events that have taken place. And so today what I wanted to do is I wanted to encourage you to actually take a look and let's do a bit of an assessment, because in NLP we often work with, and for those of you that are unfamiliar with neuro-linguistic programming, it is an art and science on how we use the language of our mind in order to affect our results. And so in NLP, in any intervention that we might be doing in any context, one of the things that we always start with is, what is the present state that we currently have, as in where are we now, and then what is the desired state and where we actually want to get to. And usually when we have a present state and we have a desired state, there's usually a gap or a bridge that we sort of have to build a pathway between. And for a lot of people, they get really stuck with that. And considering a lot of the events and the things that have taken place in the last couple of years, I wonder how many of you have actually stopped and assessed and done a little bit of a check-in in terms of where you're at. And it may very well be that, a number of years ago, you planned everything out in terms of what your business plan was, what things you were going to do in order to take to market. And for a lot of people, they don't stop in and do a check-in and do an assessment. So if you're watching this video in the page, I encourage you to go and pop the word worksheets below, and we'll make sure that we get you a copy of the resources that I'm going to go through, and we'll get that out to you. If you are watching live, please pop in #live. If you're watching the replay, I'd love for you to type in #replay. So once again, if you're watching live and you would like a copy of the worksheets, or if you're watching the replay and you'd like a copy of the worksheets and access to the assessment, then I encourage you to go and pop the comment worksheets below, and we'll make sure that we get that out to you so that you can follow along with this video and really start to look at what are some of the key areas and the impacts that you can make in order to achieve those aspirations. Now, before we get into what's the score, one of the things that I really want to highlight here is the fact that often what will happen is people have all of these ideas about what they want to create, but they're not necessarily tuning in on where they're at, or they might be doing a lot of activity and yet not getting the results that they really want. And so for many of you that are business owners, I know that some of the goals and aspirations is around removing yourself from the business, or having a business that's producing an income without necessarily relying on you. And so a lot of people focus on growth. We like to talk about scale, and when we talk about scale, it's around making sure that you actually have what you need in place in order to have the shortest pathway between where you are now and where you want to be. So let's jump on into it, and we'll have a look at what we've got in store for you today. So when we talk about your business sales health score, I think it's really important that you do an assessment in terms of where you're at as far as your business is concerned. And so if you'd like to take the quiz, I'm actually going to jump straight through to the end of the workbook here, because if you'd like to take the quiz, we actually have the link to the quiz right here. That is the URL right there. So if you'd like to take the quiz and actually get your score, just simply go to 3sales.me/quiz, and you'll be able to take the short assessment, and a report will actually come through to you in terms of what is your business sales health quiz score. Now, I think that, like I said before, a lot of our lessons and the information that we gather in terms of furthering our goals or getting to the outcomes that we really want to get to often is achieved by the activity that we do, but the real lessons and the true transformation often comes in the observation and the reflection of what it is that we're doing. And so what we're doing here today in terms of providing you with this quiz is we want you to do a reflection in terms of where things are at now, in line in comparison to what are the goals that you're wanting to achieve in your business, whether that's with your team and scaling your team. In particular, a lot of people, we help a lot of businesses to scale their sales process so that the founder can actually move away from the sales process and still produce great results and revenue coming into the business. We call it founder's freedom. For some people, it's more around creating the lifestyle business that they're really looking for and optimizing for time. For other people, it's about working with the kind of clients that they really want to work for and work with. So I think it's really important for us to have a think about what the objectives are as we take the quiz and answer some of those questions, which will give you a diagnostic in terms of where you're at. And so as you look at those results, and once again, if you want access to the workbooks and also to the quiz, please pop workbooks below and let us know if you're watching live or if you're watching via replay. So as we get into this, I think it's really important to understand that the quiz is designed to give you a bit of an assessment in terms of where you're at as far as your success is going. Now, I like to use traffic lights as a little bit of a measure because they're quite universal. We often know when there's a red light, we need to stop. We know if it's yellow, then there might be an action that we need to take, whether we need to be careful and slow down. And green usually means that we're on the right path and that we can continue to go. And so I think that in the context of the assessment, it's quite helpful for you to be able to assess a number of different key areas within your business. And I will go through those different key areas and give you some advice and some information around what things that you can look at based on the score that you got. And so, for example, if you get a big red in one of the areas of the diagnostic, then that's probably the area that you want to focus your attention on first. If you've got a yellow, you might be on the right path with a few tweaks that's going to help you to get to that next level. And if you've got a green, then you're probably on the right track. There might be another business metric area that you need to focus on, which is preventing you from seeing the full benefits of that green area. So this is really important as we get into it. And so once you've got that assessment, it'll be sent to you. So when you click on that link, once again, that link for the business health sales score assessment is the 3sales.me/quiz. And so nice and easy for you to find that, utilize it. It'll take you just a few minutes to fill out the questionnaire, and then you'll receive the assessment and the report into your inbox, and you can analyze some of those results as a result against what we're going to go through here today. So when we talk about finding your score, there are a number of different metrics that we look at in terms of the clarity of your business. And this is, when we talk about clarity, it's about clarity for you and also clarity for the market or the people that you're wanting to connect with. And so when you think about your business clarity score, here we're looking at how clear and how well defined are your business goals and your objectives. In addition to that, what are we finding in the context of your product? What I often see is there's many business owners or sales professionals or people operating in service-based businesses that they assume, and what happens when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, and so we would definitely want to cut the assumption, but they assume that people understand their product or their service at the level that they do. And so what clarity do you have in terms of what it is that you're offering, and also that's going to impact how you communicate that as well. So we really have to be thinking about that. How clear are you in terms of your delivery process and the expectation in terms of when somebody actually joins your business for the service or the product that you're offering? What are the steps in delivery? How clear is it, or do you just kind of take it as it comes up? And also, what is your avatar or what is your client? So when we talk about clarity, guys, you know, your business has a number of key things that it does. And what I've found in the past is that for a lot of founders and people who perhaps started their business, people who were pioneers in their business, and this can change based on how long you've been in business as well. For a lot of people who are founders and pioneers, a lot of the time, the knowledge of their business is predominantly in their head. And, you know, when it comes to communication, sometimes they may communicate and other times they'll leave out important factors based on the level of their resilience that day, based on how many times they've spoken to their client, based on how many times they've communicated it that day. And so when it comes to clarity, here's my key tip. Remember at the beginning of this video, I talked about the importance of, in NLP, we'll often define what is the present state, which is the where are you now, and then what is the outcome or the desired state, which is where you want to be. And so for many people, when they assess the clarity of their business goals and their objectives compared to their delivery, compared to the clarity of how they're going to scale or what is the process that they follow, do they do that consistently? If they're not doing it already, what clarity do they have in terms of mapping that out? That can be, you know, a challenging thing, because for many people, they've either got something roughly mapped out that's in their head, that they're inconsistent in their communication, either with their team or with their market, or they just haven't thought about it like that and they tend to operate based on what comes up with their clients as they go along in the delivery process. So depending on what score you got for clarity, I think it's really important. If you're a red, then this is an area that I would really encourage you to go and define some of those things in the context of business goals, clarity, looking at your product, really defining your avatar. And if you are not sure what we mean by client avatar, just have a look through the group. If you're watching this in the NLP Sales Mastery Academy, then you will find another resource. If you haven't joined us and you're watching this on my page, then I really want to encourage you to come and join us over at the NLP Sales Mastery community, which is at 3sales.me/community. So when you look at your clarity score, did you score red? Did you score orange or amber, or did you score green? If you're green, then you probably are doing really well in the sense that you have a lot of confidence in the clarity of what it is that you're trying to do and which avenues you're trying to follow. If you're an amber or red, I really encourage you to have a look at our resource, Align, Define and Deliver, which is a resource that is available in this group where we went through defining your client avatar. And I've got to tell you, it's not just about age and demographics. I really encourage you to check that one out and really work through those exercises. So as we move on to our next area of this, we want to talk about the value that it is that we're offering. And I think what's really important in the context of the value that we're offering is that often when we think about what we do, the value proposition is very clear in our mind. You know, you probably got into the business that you're in, or you sell the product that you sell or the service that you sell because you feel really passionate about it. You've got a connection with it in some way. Maybe, you know, your main motivator around what you're really doing is about helping people and making an impact, both for yourself and for your audience. And so when we think about value proposition, many times it's quite clear in the individual's mind, but then when it comes to the process of actually communicating that in a congruent way, in an effective way, sometimes people can score a little lower in this area. So if you've taken your business health sales quiz, then I really want for you to have a look at, did you score red, amber or green in this area? And let's have a look at what it means. And so when we talk about value, we're really thinking about what is it that you do that your audience needs, and why do they actually need you? And when we talk about this area, I think what's really important to keep in mind is that, if you've been following me for a while, you've heard me say this before, people buy emotionally and they justify logically. So most of the transaction and the decision to buy or to invest in the thing that you have to offer has got to do with the emotional connection from themselves to that thing that it is that they're wanting to invest in. And most of the sale or most of the investment in the value proposition will happen from an emotional level. Of course, you need to have facts and logic and different processes and things that make sense in order for that person not to have remorse after they purchase, but most of their decision will come from how they feel about it. So when you are assessing, you know, why do they need you, and what do you do that really sets you apart, I want you to put a real focus on what is the emotional connection or what is the emotional payoff that people get when they invest with you. Really, really important. And in addition to that, do you demonstrate value? And when I say demonstrate value, this is a flaw that happens for a lot of people who are in service-based businesses, or maybe they have long-form products that potentially take a long time to deliver. I work with a number of different organizations that have long sales cycles and long delivery cycles, and so sometimes the value proposition can actually be really clear up the front, but as we sort of progress and time goes by, people get either frustrated or anxious, or potentially they forget the hype and excitement that was present before. And so when we talk about the value that you offer, you might be really clear about it. You might demonstrate that value in your delivery, but perhaps that communication is missing. And as I said, service-based business owners often really struggle with this, or service-based business professionals, sales professionals struggle with the idea of the articulation and the communication of that value. And so when was the last time that you looked at what the key points of your sales process were, and in that discussion, what are some of the key questions that you ask, or that your sales team ask in that process, so that they can extract the value proposition for the client, but then also communicate and demonstrate the value in that process. So really important to look at that, particularly if you're in the area where you're wanting to scale your sales team. You really want to get out of that sales function for yourself. I'm talking to all the founders, and even talking to the sales professionals. I know that you'll always be across what you're doing in sales, but it's really about how efficient are you in being able to do that. Does it take you 3 visits to get a deal across the line? Does it take you 10 visits? Is the communication of the value being demonstrated in the way that you would like it to? Some of the other ways that you can actually look at how do you demonstrate the value is to actually look at what's the delivery and the investment, or what's the contrast between the delivery that you do and the investment that they're making, and how are you actually demonstrating that along the way. Particularly if you've got long sales cycles, it's really important to look, or long delivery cycles, it's really important to have a look at what are the touch points along the way where you get that contrast between the investment and the delivery. Also through testimonial, I think that many of us don't gather the testimonials that we need to gather. We don't utilize our client feedback in the way that can really help us to make sure that we're making that kind of impact. So have a look at what's your sales score, or what's your business health sales score in that area on the quiz. If it's red or orange, or amber, it's definitely an area that we're going to want to put some focus into, and you could spend some time investing in answering some of those questions and mapping it out. Now, if you have a team, really valuable to do this with many minds, because you'll find that your team will have some inputs and they'll have some observations that perhaps you as the founder maybe hasn't come across in your engagements. And obviously that beautiful discussion that comes when we work in team environments, very important too. So what else is involved? Let's have a look. The next thing is around, in terms of your scale and your aspirations, and bridging the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. Another important element is around your lead qualification. Now, we always know that our ability to scale, our ability to achieve growth in our business from a revenue and a profitability perspective comes from the number of clients that we can service against what kind of pricing we have and the team that we have in order to deliver it. And so there are 2 really important factors that I want you to assess in the lead qualification process. And so have you considered what is the opportunity cost for you if you have a long form sales cycle and you have clients or prospects, that are coming through that are perhaps not the right fit for your business or for your service delivery option? And I often find this is a really interesting conversation to have with professionals that are in hyped up industries. So something that's very popular in the marketplace, a lot of people are curious about it. Perhaps it is a certain level of investment that they need to make. And so there's lots of people making inquiries, but when it comes to getting them across the line and having them engage with your business, sometimes we can have a huge drop off. Now, this is where I want to come full circle back to talking about your avatar and your niche. One of the things that we often find is that people are resistant to niching, or they're resistant to the idea of really narrowing their market and becoming a specialist or being well known for a particular group of people that they want to work with and solve a problem for. And that resistance often comes from a little bit of scarcity thinking, in the sense, well, if I widen my market, then I can help more people. Or some professionals and founders are kind of like, I don't want to be bored talking to the same same kind of person all the time. But really, what we know by narrowing the niche, and some of you may see my book Confident Closing in the background there, I have a particular chapter around this in terms of the importance of niching and looking at the pitfalls on why people resist niching. By the way, if you'd like access to the book, pop book in the comments below and we'll make sure that we get you access to an audio copy. That's my gift to you today if you're watching this video on my page. And so I think one of the really key things here is to consider the opportunity cost. And I just want to put that in plain and simple numbers for you as we have a look at this. So when we put it in plain and simple numbers, you might be getting 100 inquiries because you have a popular service or because you have such a vague value proposition that lots of people think it could be the solution for them. And so when you have those 100 leads that come through, out of those leads, there might be 50 people that are willing to engage further than just be curious. And out of those 50 people, let's say that only 20 of them actually have the budget to be able to afford the thing or to be able to invest in the thing that you have to offer. And then that process then leads you to, people actually making that final commitment. Let's say that there's only 10 people. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it looks like a lot of work in terms of ways in which we qualify these leads, ways in which we scope them. If you've got a team of sales professionals, they might spend half an hour on a sales call doing a bit of a discovery. And so 100 sales calls at 30 minutes each to find that only 50% of them were even in a position to be able to take the conversation further. That's a huge amount of opportunity cost. And so what I really want to encourage you to look at when you talk about your lead qualification is once again, have a look and see, is your marketing, is your sales message, is your value proposition actually aligned with, who you really enjoy working with, that have the capacity to invest in you, have the desire and the urgency to want to engage in that at some point in time in the next few weeks or months. And if not, that doesn't mean that you write them off. It might be that there's a nurture sequence. And actually, I'll just make a little point around that. There might be people who are not your buy now, as in they're not ready to buy within the next 30 days or buying right now. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not worth talking to. It might very well be that part of your lead qualification process is to have a nurture system so that you don't lose the relationship when someone makes an inquiry. I remember one time a number of years ago, I had a lady that I met at an event, and she came up to me and she said, I'm not in a position to be able to afford your services at the moment, but I absolutely want to, put some things in place and really, invest in you. It may take me some time, but I wanted to let you know that some of the things you talked about at the event today were really valuable and useful. Now, some people might hear an inquiry like that and they've heard the objection of price so many times over, they might do one of two things. They'll dismiss the person and go, yeah, she's never going to buy. That's just an excuse, right? And I think that that's a little bit of a loss, particularly if you're a sales professional. You're programmed to like people a lot of the time. You're programmed to connect with people. This is an opportunity for connection. And even though the buy opportunity is not right now, I think that sometimes we can be a bit too dismissive. And so this is where I said to the lady, I said, look, that's wonderful. And look, why don't you join our mailing list? We do Monday motivation, we do Friday challenge, and every Monday and every Friday I share a little piece of learning in writing. There's some thoughtful questions or an activity that you can do to further the learning or to try that on for yourself. We'd love for you to join into our community, and at least that way you can start to be doing some self-paced work with those resources each week. And if it comes to the point where you're able to afford what we are offering, we'd love to work with you. And so, she was thrilled with the idea that, one, I didn't dismiss her, and two, she joined our community. By the way, if you want to be part of Monday Motivation and Friday Challenge, you can go to 3sales.me/emails and you can receive Monday Motivation and Friday Challenge. So little shameless plug there. And so we'd love to have you on our list and share all of the upcoming things that we're doing. But in truth, the point that I really want to make here is about your lead qualification process. This is about nurture sequence. And so, as I said, when people get that kind of feedback from someone, often they'll do one of two things. They'll dismiss the person, or they will, not have a process in place to be able to follow up and nurture that relationship. And so I just gave you an idea in terms of one of the things that you could do to be able to utilize that. So I want you to consider what is the opportunity cost. What's the true opportunity cost if you don't have a lead qualification process? Now, we have a bunch of resources in our NLP Sales Mastery Academy around, your qualifying process on the phone, around how you niche. There's a number of different things, so just go in and search for some of those resources to get access to the workbooks and also the videos that we've shared here. But most importantly, if you know you need some help with this, then let us know about what your score is, and we can jump on a quick call either with myself or the team, and really nurture you through in terms of some of those things that we can help you along with that process. And so as we move into the next thing, I think what we're looking at here is test and measure. For many businesses, they have lots and lots of great ideas, and they have a speed to market. They implement, they don't get feedback, and what they do is they then think that they need to re-engineer their entire product or their entire promotion or what it is that they're doing. Or sometimes people are reluctant to get started because they're unsure how the market will respond to what it is that they're offering, and with that lack of knowledge around how the market will respond, they hesitate, and procrastination's the thief of time, and sometimes the opportunity passes before they get an opportunity, before they even take it to market, and so they miss the boat. So there's lots of different things that can happen when you don't have an effective test and measure process. And I often say that the road from understanding to mastery, where flow is it brings about a little bit of frustration, but it's actually through action and practice. And sometimes in our marketing and our sales efforts, or the way that we're taking something to market, or even in our delivery process, the way that we operationally service our clients, the test and measure process is extremely important, because if it takes me, I'll give you an example, if it takes me 6 or 12 months to work on something and launch it to my audience, and then I get crickets, then I've invested a lot of time to be able to find out that that's not what the market wants. And so I always encourage people to focus on the first 15%, to actually build something and then take it for feedback to the market, or to put something out there to get some feedback so that you can have that growth process along the way. So really important. So a couple of things to consider if you've got an amber or red score in the area of test and measure. I want you to think about, what is your speed to market? Are you procrastinating for 18 months building something and just guessing whether or not your market's going to respond? Or do you do a soft launch? Or what's the peer and client feedback loops that you engage in? Now, I really want to make an important point about this, and Deborah, who works on our team, might be very happy to hear me say this, in the sense that a lot of people, when they go and get feedback, so listen, this is a really important point, right? A lot of people, when they go out to get feedback, so they might say to me, yes, Shondell, I am getting feedback. And then my next question is, who is the feedback coming from? And so the reason that I ask this question is because, while I know that your husband or your wife or your partner or your significant other or nana or a friend from down the road, while they probably have your best interests in mind and they're very happy to share their feedback with you about your products and services, or your website, or your new brochure, or which team member you're going to hire and some of the challenges about that, they're probably not your audience. And so particularly, and I'll use the example of sales here, particularly when it comes to your sales messaging, when it comes to the launch of your campaigns, when it comes to the delivery of your service or your product, the most important feedback you can get is from the people that would be your client, because they're going to answer in the context of trying on the hat of working with you and whether or not that would be valuable to you. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to family and friends in order to see what they think, or share their thoughts, but this is not a true feedback loop in the context of the clients and peers, of people who truly understand what is the value proposition and how would it make a difference to the problem that they actually have. I mean, this is the nature of why focus groups and peer group reviews are run, and why people pay for other people's opinion, knowing that they have a need for that product or service. So I really want to encourage you that if you're going to implement test and measure procedures, that you're asking for the right feedback and from the right people. And so the last one here is around CANI. So if you haven't heard the acronym CANI before, it stands for continuous and never ending improvement. So there are a lot of people that I know that actually will go to market they'll get the feedback and then they might do absolutely nothing with it. Or worse, sometimes they get the feedback and they think that it's totally wrong. Sometimes they get a bit self-righteous about it and they think it's totally wrong, and so then they don't actually implement it or look for continuous ways to continually improve what it is that they're doing. So I think that even if things are working well, and this is actually one of the areas that even if you scored a green on your business sales health quiz here, I really want to encourage you to still have a look at this, do a bit of reflection and ask yourself the question, is there more that could be done to improve this particular area? Because it's often one of the areas where people really struggle to make a really significant impact in what they're trying to achieve. And so this last one here is our business structures. Now, I think that this is a really important factor for many of you who are looking to create growth and scale in your business. I'm particularly talking to the founders. If you're a sales professional, then this is an opportunity for you to have a look as well, because I find that there's a lot of sales professionals who are doing things in long form ways. So is there an opportunity to improve the efficiency of how you do something? And I used the example before where I said, does it take you 3 meetings or 5 meetings or 10 meetings with a prospect or a client in order to get them to the stage where they're ready to buy? Is there a way that you can optimize that for success to reduce the output? And maybe it's about the little touch points along the way. And so if you're a sales professional who works within an organization, I really want to encourage you to have a look at what is the client journey and what are the steps along the way. I worked with a gentleman a number of years ago who had a really long sales cycle, and one of the biggest challenges in terms of why it took so many meetings to be able to get the client along the line was that his follow-up process wasn't very good. Little things like an email with a summary of the points discussed in a meeting, what the next steps were, really fine-tuning his communication and putting a bit of a process in place in terms of an ecosystem and how they move things through. His average meetings to get a deal across the line when we started working together was 10 meetings, and he got that down to 2. And we're talking about a high value product, 6-figure deals that he was doing. And so, that was a huge opportunity cost that was cut because he was able to, see more people, make a bigger impact, and actually get the outcomes that he wanted. The other thing that I want to highlight here is that if you're a business owner, I want you to consider what is your opportunity to scale here. Like, what have you done with your business structure? Now, for some of you might be thinking, I'm talking about whether or not you're an incorporated company or you're an LLC, or, for those of you that are in the US, I'm not necessarily talking about the legal structure of your business. I'm really talking about, what is the flow in the way that you look at your sales and your marketing? How does that flow into, or what is the product innovation that you do? How does that flow into your marketing? How does that then speak to your sales? What is the process of, of finance and administration in signing your clients up? And then what happens in the delivery process? And do you have a model that you follow that is consistent, it's clear, and that the people in your team actually follow it? So if you don't have answers to those questions, then this is an area that you definitely need to focus on. When you think about your opportunity to scale, what is your method for scaling as well? Is it about more people in your team? Is it about using technology to help you with your delivery process? Is it about the delivery and how you can optimize and create efficiency in your delivery process, reducing the wait times of your clients? Do you have systems in place? For a lot of people, when I say the word when I say the acronym SOP or standard operating procedure, most people run for the hills. The truth is that if you don't have a visible system and you're bringing more people into your organization, then that's going to really reduce either the quality of the work that's delivered or the efficiency of people being able to follow what is expected. There's obviously acquisition in the context of how are you scaling? Are you looking at opportunities to acquire other businesses? Are you looking at opportunities to acquire more of your market share? And this comes back to, again, knowing what is your avatar and who are the people that you truly make an impact for. So as we sort of draw to the conclusion of this, if you haven't taken the test already, I really want to encourage you to visit 3sales.me/quiz for you to be able to access that quiz and for you to get your business sales health quiz score. It'll be very interesting for you to find out which of the areas you might be a red or an amber, or which of the areas you might be a green. If you're all green, then congratulations. We want to hear from you in the group in terms of what are some of your successes, what are the things that you're finding are really making a difference, and you know, if you're watching this in the NLP Sales Mastery Academy group, then, you know, please, you know, share your insights with all of us that are in the group. In addition to that, you may want to, if you haven't joined us over there already and you're watching this on my page, you may want to use this QR code that's in your workbook to be able to come and enjoy other trainings like this. And so if you found this to be useful and helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you can pop your key insight either in the workbook or in the comments below. And in addition to that, if there's something that we can support you with over here at Life Puzzle, then please feel free to comment below 15 minutes and we'll organise to get either myself or a member of my team to give you a personalised assessment of your quiz and some action items that are specific to you and your business. So really awesome to have you here, guys. I really want to emphasise that the importance of this reflection is about knowing what is the right thing to focus on in order to take you closer to your goals a lot faster. If the present state is here, and for some of you, you might find that there's lots of reds or lots of oranges or you know, things that require your attention in order to make some changes to get you closer to your goal. So if this is the present state and this is where you are now, having clarity about where you want to end up in your desired outcome, it's about bridging the gap between those two things. And so these are the key areas that will allow you to increase the speed in which you can actually shorten that gap, close that gap, and get the goals of your business for your team, your clients, and the impact that you truly want to make. So I really appreciate you checking in and staying with me on this video. If you have any questions, please direct them to support@lifepuzzle.com.au or place them below in the comments if you're in our group. And thank you again for tuning in. So until we meet again, I'm Shondell from Life Puzzle. Be well and be empowered. Bye for now, guys.